Be nice. Yeah? With the food chain, so I looked at it as well, and part of it's about ecological. So some people argue we have to kill animals to maintain an ecological balance, but because we're destroying the oceans, that's kind of an oxymoron.
If you look in Brazil, you know, there's massive amounts of rainforest getting destroyed.
And you know what a lot of that's for?
Yeah, that's a lot of that's
soy, to grow animals.
soy.
Basically, there's going to be thousands of individuals on the back of this truck. It really smells. It smells really bad. So if you can hear these little individuals. They've all been cramped on the back of this truck. They've come down a motorway, and then today they're going to be gassed. Did you ever kill the animals yourself? Or were you just sort of chopping? You wouldn't want to?
No.
It's interesting because I wouldn't want to, as I said earlier.
At the same time, you know, it's taking somebody's life, and I believe whether it be me or an animal, whichever way, you got your being. So you're killing somebody.
Helping animals, guys?
I actually know quite a lot about it.
Yeah?
Being an ex-butcher.
Ex-butcher, okay, interesting, yeah. So, yeah. So we're sort of looking at a bigger spectrum, not just the cruelty, but the concept of why we're eating them at all.
So what does veganism mean to me? Well, there's a whole bunch of positives to a vegan diet, but essentially to me, what it means is that I'm going to be living my life in alignment with who I really am. I don't want to hurt animals, I don't want to cause them any suffering or unnecessary harm, and I don't want to eat their dead rotting corpses, just like I wouldn't want to eat a human's dead rotting corpse. And so for me, veganism means that you're doing whatever you can to help the animals, and then you get all these benefits. So it can be better for your health and it can be better for the environment, but at its core, it's about helping animals.
In the UK as well, we're really hypocrites, really. We've got to be true. Like, a lot of people say that they're animal lovers, but actually they're not really, they're just pet lovers. And I'd be happy to chat to anybody about it, but animal lovers don't eat animals. It's not really up for debate. You can't pay somebody to bolt gun an animal in the head and then slit their throat. That's not a thing of love, especially when you don't need to. Bolt gunning or gassing is not a loving thing to do. You said earlier, when you see slaughterhouse footage or animals being killed, it makes you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think, like, I've got animals myself, like dogs and cats, and I think you imagine it happening to your own animal, and then I just think it's a bit upsetting to watch.
It is, because we form these bonds with these animals. They have personalities, the dogs and the cats, or any pet that we bring into a house, and it's kind of like, you know, we'd never want to kill them, and every animal has their own personality, has their own life.
Yeah, I think, like, once you get used to, like, an animal and you see videos of it, it touches your heart no matter what. Yeah,
and what you've got to do, I mean, you did get tempted and you came back from, like, when you ate chicken, but what you've got to do is actually go, it doesn't make sense to carry on eating it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It does taste good, I'm not going to argue with that, but the taste isn't worth what happens to them. No, not really. Could you see the benefits of a vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, I could. Yeah. I'm a healthy guy myself. I do find that if I don't eat meat, I tend to crave it. You know, I've tried going days without eating meat, but I don't know. Yeah, I can
you see the benefits?
100%.
What about health or animals?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, like, it's obviously more sustainable and all that kind of stuff.
On an environmental level?
Yeah, on an environmental level.
On a health, do you know anything about the health side?
Yeah, definitely. It constitutes a healthy diet, you know? Like, I mean, there are some products that you shouldn't be buying, I reckon, but at the same time, it's a good idea. It's a good idea, I think,
And what about the welfare side of things?
On the moral side of things, or
ethics, morals.
Morals wise, 100%. I mean, the way we're farming is it's a bit wrong, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a bit wrong.
To grow most animals, we have to grow feed first.
Yes, I understand.
But that feed could be sent to humans.
What you mean bypass the middleman? Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Yeah. So like on the sustainability, because you said about sustainability, like technically there's enough land and we're growing enough crops to actually feed all humans on Earth. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, I have heard that. But then it's a massive change. I mean, you know, I'm one man, you know,
sure.
I don't really feel like I can voice my opinion all day about it, but I don't really feel like I can make a difference, you know.
Each year, we as humans, like say if we have 3 meals a day, we eat 1,095 meals. So if you imagine, because I understand what you mean, it's like there's 70 million. There's a lot of meat. Like dairy and eggs as well. It's all kind of linked. You know what I mean? And it seems like a big thing to do, but actually all it is we're just shifting a little bit of what we eat. Do you know about what the World Health Organization said about processed meat?
I haven't heard that. I probably may have read it,
Okay, so basically processed meat, so we're talking about ham, salami and bacon, they've classed those as a group 1 carcinogen, which means causes cancer.
Yeah, I have read that.
And then with red meat, they've classed that as a 2A, which means probably causes cancer.
Yeah, as bad as smoking or whatever.
More the processed meats is more like smoking, but both of them it's like potential. Would that ever sort of put you off eating meat?
Like I said before, if I was eating those products every single day, I'd be very conscious of it, I think. But like when I say everything in moderation, me personally, I believe if I had bacon for breakfast this morning, for instance, it's not something I'd do every day, but I have done that to this morning.
Do you smoke?
I don't smoke.
Why not?
No. Because my granddad died of lung cancer, and I suppose like for me it's like very real that smoking. I think I'm very aware of the consequences of smoking. Like, you know, I know people that have had lung cancer and all that.
Same,
So and there's a history of cancer in the family. I mean,
so would that not put you off eating red meat and processed meats? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if it would. But it not but only I am anyway. I mean, it's moderation for me. Like it's not something it's not my go-to staple diet.
Do you treat plants and animals the same? So would you walk on the grass over there?
Yeah, I would.
Would you walk on the dog?
I can't.
Why not?
Because it's a dog.
So what you're saying is you treat plants and animals differently. So God is looking down on us now, and he sees the human race. We have these animals that have feelings, they're individuals.
As our friends.
So again, as our friends, some of them are friends, but we treat some of them like as food, as commodities.
Yeah,
but we don't need to eat the pigs. So what does he think is it? Does he think it's a good thing or a bad thing that we kill these animals when we don't need to?
But God gave them to us to eat.
No, he didn't. Where is the
Bible?
No, that doesn't. Give me a second. You didn't answer my question. Does he think he looks down on the human race? We put the animals through pain, suffering, take them away from their families, put them into gas chambers when we don't need to.
Gas chambers.
Is that good or is that bad? Does he think that's a good thing?
Put animals in gas chambers.
In Cullompton, just up the road, and in Bristol.
For what?
They put them in the gas chamber because they consider that humane. Pigs and chickens. We're sort of looking at a bigger spectrum, not just the cruelty, but the concept of why we're eating them at all.
Yeah, that's gone through my mind quite a bit.
Yeah? You're an ex-butcher?
Yeah.
And so that's interesting because the only thing I've ever done is to kill animals is to kill fish.
The main thing from it is protein.
Right,
but
sure.
There's no protein in plants.
Exactly, yeah, but we're not taught that though in the UK.
Why do we eat that? Why do we need to eat meat?
We don't need to, that's the thing. Yeah.
Exactly that, but then if we didn't eat meat, a lot of these animals would be non-existent.
Not necessarily, but some of them, so the pigs, for example, they're genetic modifications, and we have sanctuaries in the UK as well, so they wouldn't go extinct. But the interesting thing is that animal agriculture is one of the leading causes of species extinction in the world.
Yeah.
So by carrying on as a race of humans, by eating animals, we are killing more species.
Unnecessarily, yeah.
Yeah. And it's essentially this leaflet, one part of it is about the dogs and the pigs. What would you know, as a butcher, would you have worked and eaten dog if the UK had said so?
I wouldn't have purchased anything that if it wasn't free range. If it wasn't free range, if it's caged, not a chance. Whether it be chicken even to a pig to a cow to whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if it didn't have a
sorry, now you don't.
No more.
Okay, so what about eggs? Do you buy any eggs or eat anything?
Eggs to me isn't acceptable because it's not a life form as such, is it? It's
Sorry. So like I was saying, there's a wider spectrum. You already know that the male chicks are killed after a couple of days.
Yeah, a lot of that goes on with cow products as well. You know, baby calves, if it's male, there's not so much wanted because of
it's too expensive.
That will breed. In a male, you get testosterone. In the female, it's not. So it's a sweeter meat.
Oh, really? Yeah. What help do you think you would need, or what would spur you to be a vegan, or even to go from a meat eater to just eating a pescatarian?
Educating myself in the kitchen.
Okay.
That's a lot. People are not educated.
No. And it's the knowledge as well, like the knowledge that you can get enough protein, that you can get enough calcium.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, as I know fully well that there are plants out there that hold more protein than
certain meats. Yeah.
It's out there, so what I can't understand also is why are these things not readily available?
It's getting that way. So if you go into a supermarket now, you can get vegan options. Knowing
I try not to go to supermarkets.
You try not to. Okay, so go to a greengrocers or go to a health food shop and get some like dried lentils, dried beans.
Are you from Dulwich? My mum is. Well, I am from Dulwich, really. But yeah.
Where do you live now?
Sorry?
Where do you live, if you don't mind asking?
I'm in Swindon at the moment.
Okay, Swindon, yeah. My grandparents are there.
Another thing to worry about is what's going out there in the oceans. That's the next worry.
Well, we're talking about, as I said, a bigger picture, and we don't want people to fish. The oceans are predicted to be fishless. They're polluted. They're toxic. The nets are. Everyone's talking about straws.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You must have heard people saying, "Let's stop using plastic straws because we're polluting the oceans." But the thing that is doing a worse thing to the oceans is the fishing, the drift nets,
the dragging.
Yeah, and also like the ecosystem is being destroyed, and we don't need to. It's literally it's not for something we need.
You take one or two out of that ecosystem and it breaks down.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But you're welcome. There is a lot of help for people who are interested in transitioning. The Vegan Society, literally, if you go to them, they have like support networks and stuff like that. We've also got it's called Challenge 22. You sign up for a 22-day vegan challenge and you get mentors that literally any question you were saying about you might need a bit more knowledge in the kitchen. They have chefs. They have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But ultimately,
it's keeping away from. It's keeping the price down as well. That's what
Well, that's why I said beans and lentils.
Yeah.
So lentils are really cheap if you buy them in bulk. Beans, whenever you put.
That's what it's about. It's being educated.
Yeah, and it just takes time.
That's what it's all about.
Literally, we're here to give a nudge to people because we're not here to point fingers. We're not here to say you're a butcher. I haven't shouted at you. You know what I mean? You're just a human being who did that job. We're here to go. There's another way. This is how you do it.
I couldn't kill them. No way.
That's it. That's the reality. No, I couldn't know
that to me as part of my job. I'm off.
Yeah.
And it was like it might sound a bad way of putting the words, but I never got to see the can.
No.
I thought it was an item. To me, it was an item that I was working with.
A lot of people do that. I was like that for like 20 odd years. I just saw this packaged thing or like part of a packaged thing, but then that's why we're here. We're here to go. There is everything we buy, which is an animal product, has come from an animal. The American Dietetics Association, the British Dietetics Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and the NHS all say that you can be a healthy vegan. Their findings show that you can be a healthy vegan at every stage of life. So what that means, to us in England 2018, eating meat becomes a choice. We simply don't have to do it. Those of us that have had animals in our homes, we will know that they're individuals and we know that they have their own personalities. Whether it's the dog that I used to know that would jump on the sofa and nuzzle up into my hand until I gave him a scratch on the head, or the cat that I used to know that would live on the top of the boiler because he knew it was hot. I've also had the pleasure of meeting a goat and a cow that had that same instinctive notion, that same drive to get that scratch on the head. And for me, looking at animals, these are thinking, feeling, sentient individuals. And personally, I can't see any meaningful difference as to why we let some come into our homes live, whereas others we will kill for meat. To produce meat, part of the process is breeding, and this can involve artificial insemination. I'm going to leave it up to the opposition to describe the acts that will happen on the males and the females in this in the female actions. I'll leave it up to the opposition to describe what will happen in that practice to the males and the females. Another part of meat production is the killing of the animals. And in the UK, we kill animals in lots of different ways. We either electrocute them with a prod, so we stun them with electricity. We'll put a bolt gun to their head. We will dunk other animals into vats of water, and we'll put other animals into gas chambers. Once these animals are stunned, we will hang them up by their hind legs, cut their throats, and blood will empty their bodies. Another way that we kill animals in the UK is fish. So in some cases, we take them out of their natural habitats, they suffocate to death, or we bash them over the head. One thing that we overlook in the UK when we go into a supermarket and see a pretty package on the shelf, or we go into a butcher's, is we never really think about the age of these animals. And for cows, for instance, they can live up to 20 years, but we kill them after 2. This is 10% of their life potential. Pigs, on the other hand, can live up to 15 years, but we kill them after 6 months. This is only 4% of their full life potential. I have been to a few slaughterhouses and witnessed thousands of individuals on the way to their deaths. And on one instance, I went to Bristol during the summer, and it was one of the hottest days of the year. And I saw that day I saw hundreds of individuals on the back of trucks. And I was looking at these animals, and I was looking into their eyes, and I was thinking, why are we doing this to them? Why are we putting them through this? I was also thinking, what if these were dogs? What that would mean is that we were sending 6-month-old puppies to a slaughterhouse. That particular slaughterhouse, they gas the animals. They lower them into a gas chamber and they kill them that way. That day we went round the back of the slaughterhouse and I recorded what was happening to those pigs that day. And that screech, that the weird noise that will never leave me, is what I heard that day. We have a recording from inside a pig. We have a recording from inside a pig slaughterhouse, and after the debate, I'm up for any. I would like to, for anybody who's up for it, for them to view it as well, and you can then make up your own individual opinions on that action. And I'd be intrigued to hear your individual perspectives on that. Thank you for your time this evening, everybody.
Hey! Hey! Wow! Wow, hello! Oh, you're so soft! Yeah? Be nice. Yeah?
I said I've stopped eating meat and started on this journey about 10 years ago, and I've heard a lot of excuses. I've heard a lot of excuses over and over and over again. I used to get so angry. Has anybody heard protein? What about protein? If you could raise your hand. Okay, so for those that haven't heard it, the most common question that gets, the common question that I've experienced is, where do you get your protein though? And I used to get really angry about that question. I was like, I know, because I knew the answer. I was like, well, we get protein from plants. The amino acids that we eat, they build in our bodies to make protein. But the other people who were asking the question, they didn't know that. But I used to get angry at them and go, oh, why are you asking this question? Yada yada yada. And now I just realised that people don't know where you get your protein from. So someone says, where do you get your protein from? I'm like, from plants. Where do you get your calcium from? From plants. And then you can literally, if you don't know the specific plant that they come from, literally just put it into Google. Vegan source of protein. Loads of examples. Vegan source of calcium.
everything. Also black widows. So on the right is a black widow, there's a female, and there's a male down here. And so when they mate, after they've mated, the female will eat the male. And so when people say, oh, lions eat meat, I say, black widows, the female eats the male. Are you going to do that as well? Because that's what animals do. And that highlights that their argument is baseless. It doesn't work. So over the years, people have used religion, to me, to justify inflicting cruelty onto animals and hurting them when there's no nutritional need. They've said, this part of this scripture says this, the vicar says that I need to do this. But for me, I used to think I was a Christian, and I don't have anything against religion, that's up to you. I have a problem with people using it to justify hurting animals. So for me, a loving God does not want anybody to hurt animals when you don't need to. A compassionate God does not want anybody to hurt animals when you don't need to. Also, there is a big group called the Seventh-day Adventists, and they are vegan and vegetarian Christians. Also, I have a lot of vegan friends who are also Christians, so not just Christian, they are lots of other faiths as well. So we can't use religion when we know that there's another option. We can't use religion as an excuse, as an argument against veganism. And I mentioned about the food chain. There is no such thing as a food chain. In 2018, when we use shops, also if there was a food chain, we're absolutely destroying the oceans to a point of no return in some respects. So you can't say food chain, oh, you're destroying the oceans, because food chain really means about keeping an ecological balance, and it doesn't make sense. Animal agriculture is destroying the planet in many ways. Doesn't exist, we have shops. I've sort of formed a set of questions that I like to ask people, and also there are lots of other inspiring people on YouTube and other areas that also have their own line of questioning, but these are the ones that I use and find effective, and they're like this. What's stopping you going vegan? Because then they go, then you get the reasons, and then you can talk through the reasons. What's your view on gassing animals in the UK? So pigs and chickens, we gas them is one of the methods. What's your view on that as an individual? Are you an animal lover? Because what you have from then is actually, I believe that a lot of people in the UK aren't animal lovers, they are pet lovers. I used to be a pet lover. I used to love the little fluffy animals that we had in our house, but I was eating other animals. So for me, that's not a thing of love. And to be a true animal lover, I believe that we have to be vegan. The other interesting question, and very few people that I've ever asked, I asked them, can you kill animals yourself? Genuinely, because I can't. I've tried a few times in the past, I have, and it was horrible, it was horrific. I'm never doing that again. And I asked them, I say, would you be able to kill animals yourself? Also, because we're in the UK, we have this distinction, we have this strange separation between dogs and pigs. We treat them differently when really they're just animals. So if I was to say I fancy a dog burger, everyone would be frowning, they'd be, why are you doing that? That's really harsh. And I'd be like, but you just came from McDonald's. What's the difference? The difference is the species. And we ask these questions, as I say, from a considerate place, like you would a friend, because they may not have been asked these questions before, and you get to sort of get an insight as to where people are at. So as I said, I haven't always been confident, and I haven't always been confident in debating people or chatting about veganism, but what happens is, over time, the more you research about veganism, the more you have conversations with people, the more you come to talks like this one, or other inspiring talks at VegFest, you build up answers, and you also develop, and also the way I answered those questions, that's my technique. You'll develop your own. You'll be like, Bertie, I didn't like that line of answering. I'm going to use this other one that's a little bit more in line with who I am, and that's totally fine. with like a cow, when we take away the calf, we can see that they're upset and sad.
Yeah,
the same with a human. If you took their baby away, they would be upset and sad.
Of course, yeah. But I think to some extent that people might anthropomorphise a little bit too much with animals. So in regards to human, but make it a little bit too human.
Not necessarily. Well, maybe that's fair enough if that's your viewpoint, but you can literally see that they're sad, and you can empathise with their sadness. You don't have to say that they're exactly like a human to see that they're unhappy.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from there. Yeah, it is upsetting to see animals upset, but realistically, there's a food chain. Just as I said back to but you don't have to eat meat, but it's obviously a lifestyle choice.
With the food chain, let's break that down. So why is there a food chain?
So obviously, since the start of time, there's always been a food chain. So obviously, at the top of that.
Is it to do with the ecology of the planet?
Yeah. So supposedly, so if you look at marine wildlife, sharks are basically at the top, from my knowledge, anyway.
But then humans kill the sharks, and then sharks sometimes kill the humans. So they must be quite.
Yeah. So obviously, it depends. So say you're swimming in the sea, you could get killed by a shark. Or say you're in a boat or a vessel, same thing. You could kill the shark. So therefore we're at the top of the food chain when we're on water, but below water we're...
With the food chain, so I looked at it as well, and part of it's about ecological. So some people argue we have to kill animals to maintain an ecological balance, but because we're destroying the oceans, that's kind of an oxymoron.
No, I agree with that as well. So obviously when it comes to wildlife and flora and fauna and obviously destruction of habitats,
humans are pretty
yeah, horrendously so as well. For example, if you look in Brazil, there's massive amounts of rainforest getting destroyed.
And you know what a lot of that's for?
And that's a lot of that's
soy, to grow animals.
That's a shame, but there's no way to deal with it.
Well, there is. If we all transition to just eat the plants instead,
but is that going to happen realistically?
Well, there's only one way of trying. On an environmental level and on the animals' welfare, is there any benefits you could see?
Yeah. So in regards to veganism, of course, animals are being treated terribly. But if you look at human beings eating animals, it's no different to like a leopard eating an animal itself, or a lion eating an animal.
Yeah, the difference is that you're not an obligate carnivore and you don't need to, whereas they have to. That's what there's no way of them surviving, but me and you can do it without it.
I understand that point of view, but the thing is, if I was going to choose to eat meat, then it's a shame the animal has to die, but when it comes to nature, things are killing each other all the time, and I think death has become such a sort of taboo subject in Western culture now, because people get so scared about going to an abattoir or looking at like a cow being killed, or like even dead bodies. Like people get a little bit upset looking at corpses.
Some people do. It depends on the individual. With you're talking about the slaughterhouses. When you've seen it, how does it make you feel when you see, like, say somebody's like, you can see the animal's eyes, you can see that they're scared, and somebody brings like a bolt gun to their head and then cuts their throat? How does that make you as an individual feel?
So personally myself, it is a shame that things have to die, but throughout the history of mankind, people have always killed animals. Animals have always died. There is a food chain. You're not going to ask a shark why it kills a whale. Or
no, but the thing is, when people say about a food chain, is there's an assumption that you have to eat meat. But there's other herbivorous animals that are in existence. So I think it's a constructed thing that we do as humans to say we must eat animals when there's no need.
I agree with that as well. I think the thing is, we can choose not to eat animals, but it comes down to a lifestyle choice, and if push comes to shove, came back to a survival situation, would you choose to eat an animal or would you choose to eat a plant?
So how old are you?
I'm 21.
How many survival situations have you been in the last 21 years?
So I've been in quite a few. I was in one just under a year ago.
What were we doing?
I was on a training exercise.
Okay.
So
it wasn't like you were living your everyday life. You'd gone on that specific course, and you were out in the woods. But in your everyday life, when you sort of go to uni or go to your job, have you ever been in a survival situation?
Well, I wouldn't say in regards to food. So I've never had to. So say, because I've been hunting myself, I've shot deer.
But that's not survival, though, is it?
No. But at the end of the day, it's still it's meat, and I'm a meat eater. So I'm not going to say I'm proud of it, because at the end of the day, it's food. But it's something I'm not.
For the animals, though, they're we're ending their lives unnecessarily.
And that's obviously a shame. But back to the food chain.
which we can step out of.
We can do,
and we do. I do.
You wouldn't want to ask a lion to step out the food chain and stop eating antelope, would you?
No, because they're obligate carnivores, unlike humans. There's a vegan option for the chicken. There's a vegan option for the spare ribs.
Yeah, there is, but it's not the real option. It's not,
but it's come from a much more compassionate place.
It has, but unfortunately for people like myself, I reckon there's, I struggle to have compassion for
sentient beings,
well,
who have the ability to feel pain and suffering.
It does, but the way I see it is that in abattoirs they kill animals to the most humane methods. And
what's humane mean to you?
Bolt gun or slice in the throat.
Yeah. Do you think animals want to live?
Of course they do, but
So then, do you think there's a humane way to kill somebody who doesn't want to die, or an animal that doesn't want to die?
I think there is. Now,
there
obviously,
is.
So humane's obviously a subjective term which can be put down to whatever you want to place it as. But I reckon, for me personally, humane is something where it's not putting the animal in any undue pain or stress. And you could fight that argument with, killing them because they don't want to die. But at the same time,
the majority of them don't.
Yeah. And the thing is, those animals, if they're out in wildlife, and say we had the same habitats as we did 600 years ago, would have wolves out, and they'd be hunting down sheep.
They would, but we're not there though. We have to look at where we're at today and be like, is it right to kill these up to, some of them we're killing them really young, like male chicks is after a couple of days for eggs that we don't need. A cow is like 2 or 3 years. That's almost a baby in cow terms.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Yeah, it's a shame that it happens.
Cow's milk, and is dairy the new Titanic? For me, the dairy industry in the UK is like the Titanic. At one point, it was this huge, majestic industry that it was portraying nutrition, it was portraying strength, it was portraying a persona of grandiose. But actually, the more I've looked into it, it's not as stable as it is perceived to be. And there's lots of things that could be seen as the icebergs that the dairy industry is hitting in 2018. So we have the rise of veganism and the rise of social media, so information about where dairy products come from can be known to thousands of people like never before. Also, the reality is there's lots of debt in farming. There's lots of information from people who are dairy farmers and ex-farmers explaining that there's lots of debt, and there's a massive decrease in the number of farms that are still in the UK. This data shows that in 1995 there were 35,744 registered dairy farms. And in 2017, this is down to 3,554 farms. That is a decrease of 30,000 farms. And as I said before, this has a lot to do with debt, and it actually, if you think about it logically, has a lot to do with the market at the moment. And so I do feel sympathy for dairy farmers who are struggling, who are considering closing up that current industry they're doing. But at the same time, there is another option for them. There's an amazing documentary out now about a farmer. It's called 73 Cows. He had a compassionate dilemma going on. He was driving animals to their deaths, and he realized that it didn't make any sense to him. It made him feel uncomfortable. And so he was like, what can I do? And it turns out that the Vegan Society have a Grow Green scheme where they have a system where they help farmers transition from using animals to other options. So in this case, he's growing vegan organics, and the 73 cows, instead of being sent to slaughter, they are now living out their lives in a sanctuary. And there are lots of other options for dairy farmers and farmers who use animals. So you have solar, you have biofuels, you have wind, you have just growing plants, you have growing Christmas trees.
Or you could do another career, so you could sell half your land and then use the land that is usable for arable, or search for another career. It's 2018 and you can find another career. Many people in different industries that have gone down have moved on. So we had the miners, we had Woolworths, we had Rover, we had Northern Rock. All of these big companies or big areas of industry, they all had employees like the dairy industry does, but there could be another avenue that dairy farmers could take. I pointed out earlier that I don't want this to be an attack video on dairy farmers and farmers. I would prefer to have a constructive conversation and find common ground. But alongside that, I have to be honest, and the reality is that if we produce milk in the UK, we generally take baby calves away from mothers. Those animals grieve and are upset when that happens. And we also do things like artificial insemination in cases against the wills of these animals. For me, that is sexual violation of their reproductive organs, and no evidence, no conversation I've ever had with farmers or other people have ever convinced me that this is a compassionate and moral thing to do to mammals in 2018. With that in mind, I want those that are watching to make up their own minds and think about, do you think it's a compassionate thing to do to animals when we don't need to? Do you think it's a moral thing to do to animals when we don't need to? And in 2018, do you think that's a progressive thing that we are doing as a species? Is it an evolved thing to put stress and make these animals suffer when we just don't need to? I hope everybody has a think about milk in general, and I hope you all make the logical and compassionate choice going forward.